Hi, this is Joe Ozimek with Coachella Valley Water District Environmental Services Division. And today we're going to be talking about site-specific chemical training, the hazardous materials that you work with on a day-to-day basis at the sites you go to. We are going to have a quiz at the end of this training. So go through the quiz, complete it, turn it into your supervisor, along with the roster that you'll sign off on, and you'll get credit for this. This is a regulatory requirement. We do this annually. And we'll be talking about a number of things that I'm going to basically review in the next slide. So our agenda, first point will be to go through safety data sheets, how the safety data sheets are organized. We'll talk about the typical chemicals that are located on site. We'll talk about NFPA, National Fire Protection Association information and what that's all about, and right to know how to access SDSs. As an employee of Coachella Valley Water District, you have the right to look up information for all the hazardous materials that we have on sites and that you could be exposed to and also work with. So I'm going to walk you through that process, how to access an SDS, review it, and print it out if you're interested in doing that. If you have any questions, again, I provided my information, josmic@cdwd.org, along with my extension. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to help you at any point in time during the year. Consider myself a resource to you in answering any questions, comments, or concerns that you may have. And again, I appreciate your time in going through this information. Safety data sheets, how are they organized? A lot of information. Given the time constraints that we have, we could spend quite a bit of time going through each of these points on the hazardous materials that are located at your sites. We're going to focus on three: hazard identification, which is number 2, first aid measures, number 4, and firefighting measures, number 5. The chemicals on site, you may not be exposed to each one of these because some of them are unique to specific sites, but they are at all the sites that you go to, possibly. Diesel fuel, motor and lube oils in some of the fueled equipment, caustic soda, sulfalox, and dolomiline, which is a safety solvent that I understand you use on a limited quantity. So diesel fuel, and this is going to be really repetitive, so bear with me through this, okay? We'll go through exposure, fire measures, and the hazards themselves. I realize you don't work directly with diesel fuel, but the generators located at some of the sites you may go to do have diesel fueled emergency backup generators. So because of that, we're going to review this information, okay? So if exposed, okay, and it gets in your eyes, you're wearing your PPE, manages to get behind the PPE, behind your safety glasses, into your eyes, the safety data sheet recommends that you flush your eyes immediately with large amounts of water for 15 minutes, okay? Skin, if it's exposed, it gets on your skin, you want to remove the contaminated clothing, the shoes, wash the exposed area thoroughly with soap and water. Inhalation, you really shouldn't be exposed to extended amounts of time to diesel fuel, but if you are, move to fresh air and seek medical attention. And if ingested, do not induce vomiting. When you look at a safety data sheet, typically a safety data sheet will say do CPR. You don't want to do that. Just seek medical attention. Giving CPR and inducing vomiting can cause more damage than anything. Any firefighting measures that you have to deal with in working with diesel, you can use fire, you can use the on-site dry fire extinguishers that we have. Just make sure that you're wearing appropriate PPE, safety glasses, gloves, steel-toed boots, okay? Hazards, be aware that the flash point of diesel fuel, relatively high, it's 125 degrees Fahrenheit. It can cause damage to organs, so you always want to make sure that you're wearing your PPE. Fatal if swallowed and can cause cancer. There are certain chemical compounds in diesel fuel, one being benzene. So you definitely want to make sure that you keep it off your skin, don't get it in your eyes, don't ingest it, don't inhale it, okay? So pretty repetitive as you go through the SDSs. When you look at some of the other materials, again, if motor or lube oil should get in your eyes, you want to flush it immediately with large amounts of water for 15 minutes. Again, the same thing, remove the contaminated clothing if it gets on your skin. You want to wash the exposed area thoroughly with soap and water. inhalation and ingestion. You obviously don't want to inhale any of the motor or lube oil. Move to fresh air and seek medical attention. And again, do not induce vomiting. Firefighting measures, no different. You can use water and the standard fire extinguishers that we have at all of our sites. And again, wear the proper PPE that we referred to before. Hazards are no different. Eye damage and irritation, damage to organs because of the same chemical compounds, and it is definitely harmful to the environment, as you already know. Caustic soda. In some cases, we do have sodium hydroxide or caustic soda at facilities. Keep in mind, same exposure issues to contend with: eyes, skin, inhalation, and ingestion. We reviewed these twice already. So just pay attention. There is consistency in exposure. Want to make sure that you are aware where the eye stations are located, eye wash stations and showers are located. Flush your eyes, wash your skin with soap and water. Firefighting measures, generally caustic soda in and of itself isn't going to cause a fire, but if it's part of a fire, be aware and it's mixed with diesel or oil. Use the fire extinguishers that you have, the dry chemical fire extinguishers on site. Just remember to wear the appropriate PPE. It is extremely corrosive, has a very high pH, can cause severe burns to your skin and eyes and the digestive system. So make sure that, when you're working with this material, that you're wearing gloves, safety gloves, nitrile, rubber, butylene, your work gloves, and keep it away from your skin. Repeated inhalation of dust vapor can lead to permanent lung damage. Prolonged or repeated skin contact can cause dermatitis, irritation to your skin, and something you definitely don't want to have to deal with. So if you're wearing your PPE, you shouldn't have any problems with this. Moving on to the next hazardous material, it's pretty unique to one singular site. You may or may not be involved with, but nonetheless, sulfulox is being used as a buffer iron salt to deal with some of the odor issues at a particular location. Took a picture in the lower left-hand corner. We have it in totes there in secondary containment, which is a good environmental safety measure. Want to make sure that this material is always kept in secondary containment, and you have a shower and an eye wash station on site that works. Because if you are exposed to it, it gets in your eyes. Like the other chemicals that we talked about, you need to flush your eyes with water for at least 15 minutes. If it gets onto your skin, you definitely want to remove your contaminated clothing and immerse the affected area in water, and then ultimately wash it with soap and water. Inhalation shouldn't have an issue while you're working outside, but if you do inhale that material, you want to get to fresh air, move away from the storage area and the secondary containment, and seek medical attention. Talk to your supervisor and let them know. Ingestion, hopefully you don't ingest this material. If you do, again, do not induce vomiting. It's a common theme in the SDSs if you review them. Firefighting measures, the material itself is not flammable. However, if it is part of material that's in a fire, you can use dry chemical fire extinguishers that we have on site. Just make sure that you're wearing the appropriate PPE. Again, don't want to sound repetitive, but safety glasses, nitrile, butylene gloves, and steel toe boots. Make sure you're wearing your proper PPE. Can't emphasize that. Hazards, you want to obviously avoid direct contact on your skin because it will cause irritation. It is harmful if it's swallowed, so you definitely don't want to ingest that for any reason. It is corrosive to metals, including aluminum, brass, carbon, and stainless steel. And you just want to make sure that you store it away from incompatible materials such as oxidizers. Oxidizers would be things like chlorine. So don't store it next to oxidizers. The limonene. This is considered a safety solvent, and it is sold commercial. You can buy this material at Home Depot or Lowe's, but don't be fooled by the retail print that you see on some of the containers, because this is still considered a hazardous material. It's incompatible with oxidizers and acids. It is combustible, has a lower flash point than diesel fuel at 119 degrees Fahrenheit. can cause irritation to skin and eyes, can cause eye damage. So if you're working with this material, and I understand that you transfer it from larger quantities, 55-gallon drums into 5-gallon buckets, make sure you're wearing your PPE, especially safety glasses, because it can cause irritation to the skin and cause eye damage because of some of the citric material that's part of the ingredient in this material. Inhalation can cause dizziness and rapid shallow breathing and bronchial irritation from some of the corrosive materials, the acidic materials in this liquid. If exposed to your eyes, again, I know it sounds repetitive, but flush your eyes with water for at least 15 minutes. Skin, you want to remove your contaminated clothing and wash the affected area with water and mild soap. It will be cause irritation to your skin. Inhalation, move the fresh air, and if it does get into your mouth, definitely rinse it out immediately and don't induce vomiting. Firefighting measures, again, dry chemical, and like I said before, wear your PPE. I know you've all seen this. This is NFPA placard, National Fire Protection Association. The organization that puts this together is a nonprofit and supports industry, both private and public sector, in coming up with these hazard classifications. The whole idea behind the NFPA placard is to give first responders, the general public, end users like yourself, an idea of what the hazards are when it comes to health, fire, instability, and anything that might be specific to a particular chemical. So when you look at a health hazard, a 0 would be something that is in a normal state, doesn't pose any health hazard. Water, for instance, will carry a health hazard of 0. Something that would have an extremely high health hazard would be like chlorine gas, which would be a health hazard of 4. It's lethal or deadly, right? Fire hazard will not burn. That would be very low on the spectrum, 0, it won't burn. Something that has an extremely high flash point, like let's say gasoline, that has a flash point of minus 49 degrees Fahrenheit, would have an extremely high flash point or a high fire hazard. Instability, something that is very stable would have a ranking of 0. Something that is very unstable, something along the lines of maybe acetylene, okay, would have a very high rating of 4. Specific hazards, where you don't want to basically use a material stored near water, would have a designation W. Oxidizer would be OX, so chlorine gas would be considered an oxidizer. You'd have a health hazard of 4 and a rating of OX in this white box. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a refresher on that, and you keep this in mind when you go to sites. Good information to have is right to know and how to access SDSs. If you didn't know this, you can go to your user programs in the lower left-hand corner and go to your user programs and look for MSDS or SDS right to know. Click on that, and that'll take you to a suite or a listing of all the SDSs that are in the district. Another thing that you can use that I like to put on my own phone, both for personal and work use, is called Cameo. It's a free app that you can download on an app store. And what you can do is you can build your own library of hazardous materials. And for instance, I have chlorine here. You go basically look into the app, you open it up, and you'll have a quick reference guide in bullet item format to chemical identifiers, hazards, response recommendations, basically all the touchstones and all the pertinent information that you need on a particular hazardous material. So something good to have for personal use, for work use. I have it, and it's a really good tool to have. I put the website on there for you, the HTTPS. If you type that in, you'll be able to download that app. Good tool to have. Another way to access SDS is go to the CVWD intranet. When you go to the intranet on the left-hand side, when you click on that, you look for links and resources. In the center of the intranet will be safety data sheets. If you double click on that, it'll take you to the e-binder of all our SDSs. If you type in a particular chemical, say sulfalox, you type that in, it'll take you to the SDS, and you can download that to your desktop, or you can print that out. It'll give you all the information you need. Okay. Like I said, I'm available to you. If you have any questions, reach out to me, extension 2775, or my email, josmic@cvwd.org. I'd be happy to help you with any questions, comments, or concerns you have. Appreciate your time and sitting through this. This is a regulatory requirement, and now you'll be taking your quiz and turning that into your supervisor. Again, thanks for your time. I appreciate it.